it. So these are some of the um, things which are essential for throughout the sessions as such. So each of them will use at different points of time. So one as in this list which I shared. So recordings, one way to recordings is every day I'll record the sessions where you can download at the end of the session. You can directly download as well, and I'll try to host all these sessions as well. You know, at the center place as well on the FioriUX.in website. So I'll do it as this process for the weekly. Once I'll try to upload all the sessions so that it will be accessible for future as well. That is one thing. And SAP account, if we are already having any existing SAP test user account, anything, that is fine. But make sure we have at least one P user ID. So P user ID when we create on SAP website. So we can go to sap.com because there are like lots of trial accounts involved, and for most of them we would require one PID. So you can go to the sap.com directly, and on the person icon when we click, so it we just need to fill this form, and it needs some verification for authentication. So once it is activated, we'll get one P user ID. So that is needed for some of the exercises and most of the accessing trial accounts, etc. So this is one thing. So this step, it's just a straightforward step where once you have a P user ID, you should get some ID like this way. So P user ID. So this was the step which allows us to have access. Okay. So this step is all about from we can visit sap.com and we can create our own some ID. And one more is GitHub. GitHub, I think if you're familiar, it is meant for hosting a code repository and for collaborating, for while developing remotely for the development, etc. So that was the main objective. GitHub is open source and it's free to use. And how will we are going to use this? You can just create one account in this as well. So this would look this way. So once I'll just sign out. So once you log into this GitHub, so this is how it would look. This is Microsoft currently it owns this, so we can just sign up to this. It's very secure, so there's nothing to worry about it. So GitHub, we can just sign up, and once we have sign up, so you have to share me your email ID which you have registered GitHub, so that I can provide access to all the code repository which we are going to do on regular basis. So I'll host everything in this particular node. So daily whatever we are doing anything, everything I'll host it here. So I created this branch and it is set to private. So once you share me the email ID, I'll provide access to this particular branch. So this is second thing. So here I'll try to host everything. What are the projects or everything, accesses, code snippets. You can always fall back and refer to this when we are doing on the daily sessions. Those things, anything. This is like single point where you'll find all the content related to our programming, anything. So this is the place to follow. And I have shared one developer guide. So this is useful and handy. So not only now, when you want to build for yourself any web application, these steps as we go ahead, you'll find it handy. So this guide, once you download this, you can download this. So once you download this, so this gives us, getting started guide for developers kind of. So I have tried to present all detailed way to how do we access, etc. So this I'll try to simplify as well. So right now, you may not need to follow as is steps, but I'll try to brief at what junctures to use which section, so that will assist in our day-to-day building of applications, etc. So for you, this GitHub repository this is your repository where you will be able to see all your codes, and you can follow this guide instructions based on each exercise, and then those exercises can be followed. So this is one place which is handy for reference. Hope I'm clear, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah, GitHub, you can just create account for now. That's it. Nothing more. We need not do any steps from the ebook which was shared. So nothing to do. Just we are creating accounts now, so that we'll know where to access what. That's the idea. So this is one new account is required. Then there is one ID. So what we call it as like we can use the plain notepad to write the code as well. It will be very tedious. So generally any ID we can use it. ID they call it as like a development tool kind of. So Visual Studio Code is the latest one which SAP platform which is relying. So this had its own journey. So previously all the Fiori, like whenever I say Fiori 1, 2, 3, so these all are like evolution of the Fiori. Similarly, the tools, technologies, everything also evolved. So initially Eclipse was used as a default choice for building Fiori apps. Then came SAP Web ID. Then came SAP Business Application Studio. From last 3 months, like that means you can say in 2021, the latest tool to use is SAP Business Application Studio. Business Application Studio is nothing but it's based on Visual Studio Code itself. Now, if future like futuristic, if we are at all anything going to develop, then most of the customers have to use Business App Studio because WebID has been the support will be stopped very soon. It is not yet stopped, but currently most of the customers they are using SAP WebID tool that is previous version. But the current recommended tool is SAP Business Hub Studio. So I'll try to we'll try to practice things. See, the practicing in any ID is same. We'll try to practice in latest one so that there are like certain changes in the there are lots of new concepts have been introduced, something like MTA. So that we call it as these are like multi-target applications. So Business Application Studio allows us to build full stack applications. When I say full stack, you can do from the same ID backend development, front end development. So that is the advantage of Business App Studio. And we can build Java projects, Node.js projects, whatnot. So all type of programming language, single ID. Whereas WebID, the catch was it was only supporting SAP in-house programming languages. So especially it was meant for SAP Fiori applications and some HANA projects as such. So there was certain, it was very slow process. So if SAP had to build its own WebID and everything, now it thought of using standard Microsoft Visual Studio Code, and on top of it, it tried to ship its extensions, etc., and it rebranded as SAP Business Application Studio. So that's a simple way to put forward. Okay,
Is it free or we have to pay
it's
license
free.
fee?
No, so SAP Visual Studio Code is free. So this is for local development. We can use for local development. When I say this, is not for production. So for your practice, etc., you can use SAP Visual Studio Code. If you're in working with a customer or anything, then they'll give you SAP Business Application Studio, which is licensed one. That is the only difference. Okay. So for
Okay,
local
sir.
development, we can use Visual Studio Code, whereas for official purpose or in then we can use either SAP Web ID is also still relevant today. So SAP Web ID is version 2, whereas Business Studio can call it as latest version, current version. Okay. This is the latest ID to be which we can use. Okay. So I'll just show this as well. So Omkar, if you haven't yet followed, just I was just explaining what all has to be installed and to be ready in the first week. Okay. So you can create one GitHub account and then try to access it. Share me that email ID with which you have registered GitHub. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I will share.
So code.visual studio code. So just you can type of Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio, and it should take you to code.visual studio code. So this is the place. Code.visual studio code is the official website for this ID, and based on your environment, or you can just try to download. So if it is 64-bit or 32-bit, just ensure that you're using the right you know installation file. If you already, then you can follow the steps today with me so that we will do our first application. Okay. So if you have Visual Studio Code, then that is enough for today's session at least. And So you can just download this. If you would like to do parallelly, you can just to ensure you can install any of this Visual Studio Code and just try to install next steps. You can do just follow the wizard, and that should do. Okay, we'll keep. So here one interesting thing to, I'll just say one interesting thing. See, okay, setup first and foremost thing to do is install your Visual Studio Code. This is our first thing to do, and then we have to install Node.js. So Node.js is in a JavaScript. It's built. It's a server meant for deploying applications and testing in locally. So Node.js is this JavaScript library. Using JavaScript, it is built. It's like if you are familiar with any Java ecosystem, generally you might have heard about Tomcat server. So Java applications, when we write any program or anything, generally in college, etc., they'll use Tomcat server to
Run
run
the
the
system.
applications. So, but similarly, Node.js is very popular in JavaScript frameworks, any framework for that matter, because it's open source. It allows us to do lots of tasks. I'll tell you what all the tricks, etc., and how Node.js really saves lots of things which we can automate directly. Okay, so Node.js is one we have to install. Okay, so this is meant for application as an application server we'll use. So we need to have Node.js as well. Okay, so for this you can go to Node.js official website and just try to download LTS version. LTS is long-term support, so this is will have stability and there will not be any issues as such. So you can likewise, I think you can, so you can just check for which version you are trying to download, and accordingly you can try to check the download section. I think for different environments you can go to download section. It will show you for Mac or Windows installation, etc. So ensure that your 32-bit or 64 your right version you are trying to opt for according to your system landscape. So hope I think most of the systems, if you're using, they should be 64-bit. But double check, because this is one problem generally. You might be downloading the wrong type of so if you right click on you come to my computer, and if you right click on this, so here it should show you a 64-bit or 32-bit. So based on your system properties, just try to install the right version. So if in my case it is 64-bit, so I'll be using 64-bit version. So if it is 32-bit, make sure for both of this you download 32-bit or 64-bit accordingly. Okay, that is one point to just remember. So these are just the essential tools for today's class. Okay, so I'll just go and show you now. Once you download this, just try to install this as well. Okay, if you install it, then you can just launch Visual Studio Code. So I'm just opening Visual Studio Code. So we'll do a quick check whether our system everything is perfectly installed, etc. So for that, Visual Studio Code, we can play around with lots of things. So two things which we popularly use called a terminal. So how to use Visual Studio Code? So I'll just give. So one is the terminal. So terminal is single place. It's like shortcuts using which we can access all the features of. It's like command prompt. So how we have in Windows command prompt, similarly. So you go to terminal and click on new terminal. Okay. Once you're in new terminal, if you have correctly installed a Node.js version, so we should be able to see Node when I type Node hyphen minus V. Okay, if you type it, it should show you the version installed version. So in this case, it shows as version 1.4.1.5. So if this doesn't show, or if there is an error, that means your node has been not properly installed. There could be one more reason. Maybe you have opened your Visual Studio Code and you might have to close it and reopen it, because Node, if you have Visual Studio Code, you have installed it, then you have to ensure that Node.js is also installed. Then you have to open your Visual Studio Code. And if you type Node minus V, then it should point you to specific application server. So if this is pointing, then so new check is open new terminal and then type command this way. Okay, node -v. Okay, this should show you version of Node.js server. So that means Node.js server is perfectly set up and ID is able to recognize it. So there is no manual steps. Automatically, if it is available in the system, Visual Studio Code will recognize that there is a Node.js server available. Okay, this is very important step because all our installations will be hosted on Node.js server only. So this is a server where any add-ons which we are installing going forward, they need a server to be placed. So Node.js helps us to do that task.
This Node.js is going to run on the local, right?
Yes, local. Yes, correct.
Okay.
So it's just local environment where all our application, what we are going to build, we wanted to run in our local machine first. So we are not actually deploying to any server. So to run all the applications locally, we are using this particular Node.js. So that is the whole point of Node.js.
Okay.
So once the first step is done, if it is done, so you can see if you're doing parallelly, make sure just pause me, or yeah, else you can first watch the steps, then you can I'll give a minute a while so that you can redo these things as well. Okay, so you are able to follow till here, right?
Yes.
So now the second important step after terminal is like we have something called extensions. If you see on the left side, so this is your project explorer. The first icon is project explorer where it will show us the folder structure, etc. So for this, what we have to do is we have to go to file and create open folder. So we have to create a local project repository. Where our projects are there, we have to point to it some specific location. So you can just create which are the location, but make sure that you are not changing this location. Preferably put it in your documents. So somewhere in the documents, you can just create a new folder and you give it a name called Visual Studio Code Workspace. Okay, Visual Studio Code Workspace, and try to select that folder after naming it. Okay, in this case, I created one called Visual Studio Code B03 as a folder. I preferred on desktop, but you can probably use your some documents where you can refer if required. So you have to create a workspace with a new folder. So select a new folder and try to create a folder. Just empty folder, you can just select that folder. So on your first page, you should see once the moment you create it, you should see a folder called your workspace. So all our projects will be placed in that particular workspace. So this is point number 2, right? So second step would be so creating a workspace. So this will give us, we will, have all our projects act in the local environment. Okay, so this is creating a new folder. So new folder and now select from file. So go to file and then create a new folder. That's it. So this is the only step we are doing it here. Now we have something called, if you come to the second, this is just we'll go to this point. So the second step is nothing but it's all about Git. I'll go to this step later. So now if you have created already GitHub account, then we link that GitHub account to this particular repository. So we'll do that as a last step. So because we haven't yet created any project, so once we create a project, then I'll show how we are going to link our GitHub account to this particular project so that we can host all our code on the go. So that means what we are going to do is we're going to create a repository and we'll integrate with this. So all our code lies on our laptop as well as on the cloud. So on the GitHub as well, we'll be hosting it. So all our code will be available anywhere and anytime whenever we want, etc. And at the same time, we can see if you're stuck in somewhere. So you can just share me that repository and I can just pull that repository and I can just verify the code, what exactly going wrong, etc. So that's the advantage of GitHub. So we can collaborate while we are learning. So that is beauty of GitHub. Okay, this step we are going to do lastly. So these two are related to GitHub itself. So initializing, etc. Right now, do not do anything for the icon 2 and 3. So you can come to the fifth icon called extensions. So this extensions is a place which allows us to, like I said, Visual Studio Code allows us to do any kind of programming. You can do AngularJS, you can do UFA programming, you can do Python programming, anything. This IDE is meant for doing any programming. So all we need to do is identify the right tool belt, and we have to install those extensions. So in this case, we have something called, you can type SAP Fiori. So if you type SAP Fiori, you'll find something called, so if you see, they are like individual, but there is one called SAP Fiori Tools Extension Pack. So this is officially shipped by SAP SAP SE itself. So this is not any. There are, see, one thing you have to remember, there will be some third-party developers as well publishing add-ons, and there will be official developer community as well publishing the add-ons. But we have to careful when we are actually installing, and we have to just check these reviews at least for that matter. If you're very new, just you make sure that you're not installing wrong components. Sometimes, it can lead to other consequences. So this is shipped by SAP and SAP SE itself. So SAP Fiori Tools Extract is the only extension which is necessary for our throughout of any of your other development. It has a combination of 6 extensions called as application developer one and guided development, service modeling, application wizard. So there are like, we'll see all how we are going to use, etc. But for now, just all you have to do is just install it. In my case, I have already installed it. So for your case, it should show as install option. So if you have installed it, you have to restart your Visual Studio Code. Okay. So type for this particular extension name as a Fiori extension. So install extension. Okay. So this is SAP Fiori Tools extension is the key name. You have to type it out and just install it, and then ensure to restart it as well. Restart your okay. So hope we are clear till this point. So this is once if you are have successfully installed and restarted, then in order to test whether it is properly installed, we have to do again one quick option. So one more third important action which we do is command palette. So command palette, like you're saying, you have to go to view and then check for command palette, or the shortcut Control Shift P. So command palette allows us to do launch all the installed add-ons. So now if you have installed this add-on correctly, you should, the moment you type Fiori, you should see lots of options related to Fiori add-on. So these all options appear only if you install the add-on in the previous step. Okay, in this case, if you see, it shows as open application generated, guided development, etc., and lots of other options. So we are going to see each of the options as we go, but right now all you need is open application generator. So this is the one which you have to select. So open application generator should launch you something called a template this way, and this should be your, if you're able to launch this step, that means your plugin has been installed properly. So that is a quick check. So it will take a while because on the below, if you see the footer, it will show you what action currently it's going on. If it is sometimes because of Node.js, what it does is it automatically checks for any new updates available, etc. So once you are on this step, you should see something this wizard as such. Okay. Fourth step is go to view and then command palette. So here you can just once command palette opens, you can type SAP Fiori, or you can just type Fiori, and that will take you to this particular option. So exact name Fiori open application generator. Okay, open application generator. So if you are able to see this particular section and page, then it ensures that the third step is properly installed. So for Node.js, the first step, for Workspace, and for fourth step is to check that third step has been properly done. Clear? So here,
Sir,
yes.
when I did this same step command, something you told me, view command palette, I am
Mhm.
getting the error. I am getting the error, sir. SAP
You have to
Fiori
restart.
generate.
Okay.
Ah,
You have
okay.
to restart your once your web ID, because after installation of extension, if you restart it, it will able to identify the extension. If not,
I
it will not be able to recognize.
No, sir. I restarted and then again I started, like I went to view command palette and Fiori that generator. I'm getting message like generator failed, cannot read properly.
Okay, okay. So one thing what you can do is, if you are running Visual Studio Code, you can run Visual Studio Code as administrator. Okay. So
Okay.
and then you
I'm
can try
also getting
installing.
the same error.
Okay, okay. Can any of you can share the screen then? So I'll just verify it.
Um, how do I
Yeah,
share
you
the
can.
screen?
Yes, I'll just stop sharing. You have on here option on, if you're able to see, next to chat there's a share screen option. I'm just stop the sharing. You can just click
Okay,
on
okay,
share screen.
okay. So
Yeah, I can see now.
yeah, so I'm getting this error.
Oh, okay. Uh, can you just okay, go to extension tab once again.
Extension tab. Yeah,
Yes, yes. So can you just type there SAP Fiori extension pack? Yeah, I think it's already available on third
I,
result.
yeah.
Yes,
I did
select extension
install
pack.
this one. Yeah,
Correct.
this one.
Yeah, just okay. Just maximize. Can you just full screen this one? Okay. Okay. So yeah, it shows as installed. So I think this is perfectly fine. So can you just try just close this complete Visual Studio Code and try to reopen again?
Okay, so I need to open as administrator, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think yeah, you're now
Yeah.
it's properly detected. So it's sometimes it will after we install sometimes because of rights etc access it might restrict sometimes, but it will happen, you can wait for a while after installation of your extension, then
Okay.
technically this should be appearing as such. So I think you are good now. So Omkar,
Okay.
you can also just try as run as administrator and try to just do it. I think this also it should solve your problem as well.
Okay, okay, sir.
Okay, clear. Okay, I'm sharing resharing my screen.
Okay.
So if we are at this stage, that means we are successfully installed extension. So always make sure if you are facing any sort of these issues, just try to close it and restart your. Sometimes you have to restart your PC because sometimes like I said, environment variables will be declared. Like we might have created our Node.js path, etc. Right, somewhere in the C, etc. So because of your various environment, because of the restrictions on your laptop etc, maybe it might require you to restart your system, so that will be a one time activity. So these are like one time activity, so nothing to worry about it. So here there's like one good advantage it see, see this is not just this is now currently what I show you is what SAP has shipped. There is one more interesting topic out here. So very this is like optional. I'm just trying to give as an optional thing. So one advantage with Visual, like we understood, we can do any kind of programming. So if you are starting learning these concepts for SAP Fiori, you can apply these concepts for Angular JS, you can apply for React JS or anything as well. So all you can do is in the extension section. So this is for some other time, but just I'm saying we can use this tool for Angular JS. So if you see, they're like Angular JS extension pack, etc. So there are like lots of other languages which we can use this ID as well. So that is one point as such. And coming to SAP Fiori itself, like I said, like SAP has shipped this add-on. There are like lots of developers as well. They're releasing some extensions. They're like very cool extensions. There is one popular platform called NPM Manager. So I'll just show you. So npm.js.com. This is open source community, you can call it. So like just like a GitHub, here we have lots of people who will be publishing lots of packages. If you see, if you type SAP Fiori, so there will be lots of people who are publishing lots of extensions, etc. So we can always check out all these extensions, anything openly developed, etc. Just like GitHub, this is a repository where software packages are hosted. You can say like it's a where we free software how we download. So this is something like anything which are deployed onto Node.js. Those projects can be published in this particular software repository. You can find lots of not only Fiori, all open source projects. Source code if you want. GitHub is one asset and npm is one more asset. Okay, so this is one which you can just remember. So this is also handy if you, we won't use it, but this is handy if you are in the long run, if you are trying to work with Node.js kind of environments. Okay. So here, why I am suggesting this is, so if you see they're like generator.fiori, these are like so it's published some 18 days back. So these are like SAP also hosts its packages, latest updates, etc., new features, etc. So whenever we want to know something, new features, etc., are coming up, so in the space of Fiori, we can just type it of SAP Fiori and we can check which is popular right now. So these are like open source so some CDS, some server extension was introduced, some other people also see some other people, they are trying to create some more add-ons like Fiori fundamental, some add-on, etc. So there are like lots of other add-ons which are being published regularly. So okay, I'll not go into detail, but you can explore this as optional part. So in this context, if you how do we access and integrate this Node.js, this npm package manager? So here we have something called explore and install generators. So if you select on the top right corner, so this will take you to one repository here. So this repository is nothing but all the repositories which are hosted on npm. So what all are hosted on npm, all those results will appear directly on this particular section. Okay, so here if you see the generators, what all are here, they're like, you will see this screen, there's a shortcut on the right where you can search for cap programming. So this is for cloud development extensions. If you need, you can just select this. All SAP related one, what all generators are there, if you search, these are like SAP has developer or open source people have developer, whatever it may be, everything will be appearing here. But this is a place where you have to play a very cautious role. Make sure you know which extension you're installing. So how do we know is, you can search for this particular, or you can click on this more information and it will take you to this npm.js. So you can click on open. So you have to read whether this extension is shipped by SAP or whether it's by some other general public. So you have to just make sure that what are you are doing it, you are so these are like this third party, we are directly hosted content, we are directly installing. So we have to make sure that we are installing the right add-ons, etc. So these are optional things which you may not need to use as well, but any new features, if you want to test it out, if you want to ship and deploy some open source way also, this is a section you have to follow. Okay, and yeah, even this is very useful one. This is also optional. We call it as Yeoman generator. So Yeoman generator. So Yeoman generator is like wizard structure, how you're getting it. So this wizard structure, so you need not to do this step. You can just do the first step, npm install Yeoman. Okay. Okay, I think I'll just show you that step. Yeah, and see, this is a step. You can just do this step as Yeoman generator. So this is one useful add-on. Okay, so this will later I'll explain how it is useful, etc. But you can just install this Yeoman generator. If you see the wizard here, so this is a Yeoman generator itself. So because of wizard structure only, see this wizard structure allows us to deploy all this these are like extensions. If you call me, these are like see, if you see here list, report, work list, etc. These are overview page. So these are like templates which will build half of the code for us. We need not to code from scratch. When we say this, these all are officially provided by SAP as a templates, so that instead of always starting with the first piece of code, they'll give you some standard structure like MVC structure. So MVC structure would be automatically created, and all we need to do is on top of it you have to start building our code. So it's like reusing the code. So this step to create such a screen, what we use is called as Yeoman generator. So this is a wizard is because of Yeoman generator. So Yeoman generator allows us to create our own wizards as well. So that is a optional step, but just right now just try to install this particular Yeoman generator and you are good to go. Okay, so this is, I think if you are till here, this is enough for our development activities.
So to install, do I use the terminal?
Yeah, you can use terminal, correct. So you can just go to new terminal, you can run the command there. You can just copy paste this particular command called npm install -t. So all the commands, whenever I say these commands, they have to be run on here itself. Just you can install npm install -t, and this would automatically install the package. So if you see, it will point back to your npm, like I said, so that host, and it directly installs it.
Okay.
So so we can automate, we can instruct as well. So whenever you're opening your Visual Studio Code, automatically a new version, anything released, Node.js server automatically it goes and updates all our libraries. So we need not do install manually any of the Git. Once you install it, anytime any new version or update is there, it will automatically update as well. So that's the beauty of Node.js.
So this npm is the Node.js server, is it?
It's a they call it as npm is a package manager. So
Okay.
all the Node.js projects which we deploy it, right? So this is like we can deploy as a open, like open source projects. There should be some place to deploy it. So Node.js, any applications developed, it could be JavaScript or Angular or any project. So generally they'll host their deployed application in npm. So it's like package manager. All the deployed
Okay.
application will be hosted there. So we are using, say, someone third party, they are try to build some nice, they have put lots of efforts and build some cool repository, so which reduces our job. So what we are doing is we are reusing those what we call components. Even SAP is also doing the same thing. When they are building it stuff, they are taking some of the open source technologies and it's trying to build its own niche products on top of it. Okay, so so if you see here, these generators are all for Angular, Backbone, React, Polymer. So this guy, the human, this maybe it's I'm not sure who exactly managing it. They create lots of extensions for. See, they have created 5,000 plus projects, tools. They exclusive build tools for various platforms. They have built one for Fiori as well. So that's the one we are using right now.
Okay.
So this is one. I think, okay. So if you have installed, see if it shows you as it got installed. So if it is, it shows there's no error access, then I think you're good. So it again comes back to your folder path. So this is a folder path which we created, right? That means task has been completed. So how much time it took for the task. So it is done. So if you have done this job step, I think you can just close it. So here, if you see, so I'll just quickly create. So if you see, you'll see two options: Fiori elements and Freestyle. So Fiori elements are meant for if you're an ABAP developer and you do not want to write a single line of code, you want everything to be written in the backend. So you write all your logic, business logic, and application logic in the backend. When I say backend, it has limitations. So we cannot do any changes to standard template. The UI code is fixed. That means if you want, if you see, if you can see my screen, let me zoom it a bit. So if you see here, the screen out here. So this is, we call it as list report. Okay, I'll just show some more snapshot. So if you're able to see my screen, so these are like standard templates, we call it as. So what they do is, so using, there are like two approaches of building. So our objective is throughout the course, how many ways are there and what are the best ways to build Fiori apps. Okay, our whole objective of what this journey is how best we can design and deliver Fiori apps, correct? So that's our whole object. So there are like different journeys. So like there are different ways of building the Fiori apps. Ultimately, what we do is we deploy onto the launchpad, which we have seen yesterday, right? So that launchpad as a tiles. So ultimate goal is we design apps and we publish onto the launchpad. So LPD, the launchpad URL as tiles, right? On the tiles. So for this, there are like two tracks. One we call it as Fiori elements, okay, and other we call it as freestyle. So what's the difference as such is free elements are also called as smart apps, or previously they used to call it as smart controls. Okay, so this was rebranded as Fiori elements app application. So it's nothing but it uses annotations. What are annotations? Okay, obvious question. So annotations are some set of instructions which will, it's based on metadata. Okay, I'll talk in detail about those jargons, but to understand as a layman, this is like no code approach. Okay, when I say no code approach, it's not always no code, no UI code at least. Okay, UI you need not write any code, but in the back we have to write the code. Okay, so this is meant for ABAP developers because SAP has lots of ABAP developer community and very less of the UI developer community. So they wanted to have quick development options. So it wanted to give developers lots of options so that when it comes to business outcomes, so if business asks to build some simple scenarios, they should be able to do it with the least effort. So that's the whole point of idea when they thought like, okay, I think this approach enables. So what they use is CDS views. So using CDS views, we can create something called annotations, and annotations allows us to using which allows us to generate an OData service, and OData service is nothing but it is nothing but it has something called metadata. So all the Fiori elements applications would need is a metadata. So what is a metadata? I'll just quickly show you that. So if you have for this you need an ESY system access. For the time being, I'll just show you a service. So I'm just taking one sample service. So if you have any OData service, this is how the service looks. Okay. So this service, if you append dollar metadata as a keyword, so this is a keyword. So if you plain service looks this way, if you append a dollar metadata here, if you see there are only entity sets. That means it shows only your tables, etc. When I select dollar metadata, it shows me the complete drill down of exclusive complete contents. It may not be readable to you exactly, but I'll tell you the crux of it. So if you see there's an entity called supplier, nothing but is a table called supplier, and the key field of it is ID, and these are the columns which it has. So it gives you detailed information of the whole your backend design. If you see this ID, whether it can be nullable or what's the max length, so complete information of each and every granular details of the data type, etc., will come to know from the metadata structure. So this metadata structure allows to automate the code. So now I know that there is a table called supplier and it has these fields. So what our uh, the application template does is we just use this template wizard to map to those fields. We'll map the fields and automatically the UI application will be created based on templates. So that's how the whole annotations works. So annotations, we cannot write any single line of code. Any code line of code, if you want to write, we have to use freestyle approach only. So this is meant for just what are templates are given, only those outputs if you want, then you can use this particular approach because it uses metadata. Metadata gives you complete information of what all columns, tables, etc. So now you'll understand how this metadata used in simple steps going forward is. So I'll just show you one any of this template you can select. So so for this services, etc., you can use for service. I'll just give you a service. So this service you can use it. So before that, this is one sample service, sample OData service. I'll share this sample OData service. Um, Before that, so this is for no code approach where using metadata will do it. The freestyle approach is meant for building, or for, see, for this is exclusively meant for using UI coding. We'll build our own complete from scratch any custom application or Fiori application you want to modify, etc. So then extension of Fiori, etc. So the freestyle approach is the one. So this using which UI code we can manage. So we can build custom applications. So if you want to build a custom application using your own coding approach, then freestyle is a track you have to select. So we'll um, see all the approaches, but this is the approach is most popularly used. Clear? So okay, without any delay, I'll just show one quick output of let's see. So in this case, I'll just select some SAP. You go to freestyle and select SAP UFI. So dummy blank template it is. So you can just select next. In the data source for the timing, there are like lots of options. We'll see in detail later. Just I'll select none, and then we'll select next, and name, view name. So well, I'll talk about the MVC structure, everything in detail. For now, you can retain as is. So it asks for module name. Here it should be all small case. You can write as first app. Okay, so I have one already, first app. So you can write the module name as first app, and application title you can give it as you know the UEFI application. So this is our first application, and the namespace is nothing but a package name or a folder name. We can give as make sure you to remember what are namespace you're giving. So I am giving UX as a name. Throughout for all the projects, I'll use the namespace as this is like you can call it as your package. In SAP we have packages, right? So same like in UI also, namespace is nothing but your package. So give it a name and make sure to remember this particular name, what are the namespace you are giving for all your subsequent exercises. So this is while deploying also we need to specify namespace. Okay, so here you specify the module name. Module name is nothing but for this is like MTA approach, like I said. So for HTML5 applications, this module name allows us to identify uniquely, and similarly for the backend application, this module name uniquely identifies that it's a backend project, etc. So I'll tell those the concepts in later classes, but for now, make sure you give module name as small letters, all small letters. You can give any name, and your application title, etc. You can give it, and this is your. It should be unique to all your projects. So this cannot be the same name for everything. So this is, you can call it as Fiori ID also. So all our applications should have one unique ID, and this will be your ID. Okay. And in this case you can make sure that your it is pointed to your path, so which we created in the first step, right, in the folder structure. So in this case my folder structure, it points to automatically, it points to this. So I'm good with this. So you can select all. No, 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 right now we are not going to see any of these things. Click on finish. So this should automatically generate, and it will be installing the dependencies. So we'll just wait for, you can, if you can see on the bottom, so it will it's showing that it's installing dependencies. So we'll wait for those to install.
What are these dependencies?
It's like the template we selected, right? So it is stitching our template and the instructions which you have given. So we have selected some we said that it's a template, use this template. So now what it is doing is in the background, it's creating the project structure, that means the MVC structure. So you'll see the beauty of this is it will do 50% of our job. So when I say 50% of job, so in a couple of minutes we'll see a nice organized project structure which is created, which is very organized. So
Okay.
we follow something called MVC architecture for building applications, and this template, what it does is it does the job. See, instead of manually we doing it, we are instructing it to do for on behalf of us. So it is automatically creating the folder structure. If you see now, it created now first step v1 is the module name which I have given. So if I expand it, if you see, there are like lots of project files which are appearing it. So first one is node modules. So all the libraries which are required for our UFA application development, if you see this UFA handle, so this contains all our controls. So UFA framework, etc. So all those things are library files are found in Node. So this is nothing but are deployed on our Node.js server. If Node.js is not installed, we'll not be able to deploy any of your libraries. So that is a dependency. So Node.js is nothing but your resource files modules, and web app is the file where our whole project files exist. So this folder structure, what are you seeing? This we call it as MVC architecture. So all our views. So MVC refers to model view controller. All the UI logic, so UI components we write in the view folder. Okay, and all the logic, the when it comes to the logic, so how the UI application interacts with the OData service, etc. That logic we'll write in controller. So where is M is nothing but our model, nothing but our OData service. So OData service is the one which holds all data. So UI, anything, the text field or the UI buttons, etc., all those things we write in the view folder, whereas in the controller we write all the logic. So what data has to be fetched, whether I have to create a table, whether I have to delete a record, what we have to do. So all the logic we'll write in controller, and for this we'll use JavaScript logic here. So the programming what we use is JavaScript, will be used in the controller space for writing logics. Am I clear?
Yeah.
So what we are saying is, now the template allowed us to create this particular folder structure called web app and all the dependency libraries. So it has done our job very easy. See, all the bare bones of structure, etc., it has created. Now this is how the controller. And similar in the view, we write the logic in terms of XML. So this syntax is called as XML. It will be similar to your HTML. But for now, you need not to understand the complete structure of it. Will in detail, I'll explain all the things. But for the time being, what you can do is you can just in the content you can add a text control. So you can just add a control called text and give it a property called text and just type you know uh, let's learn or anything you can, let's learn UI file. Okay, so when we run this application, it should show us this text. Okay, I'll change this title for the timing. I'll set this title as first app. Okay, I'll just save this. The controllers, you can use a shortcut to directly save, and you make sure that if you are editing anything, if you see here, if it shows on the top as some white icon, etc. So maybe based on the theme, what are you using, it might differ. But if it shows a circle, that means it is yet to be saved. So you have to make sure that you're saving it. And there are lots of shortcuts as well. For commenting, etc., you can use control slash. So control slash will easily allow you to comment the uh, lines of code. That is something which we use very frequently. Now let's run this application. So if you have just written one line of code called text, so in this case content, I this closing brace, I just content I added it. So there's a closing brace for content, I added it and just added a text called let's learn UFI. So to run this application, now what I'll do is I'll select my first app project, which is the module, and I'll click on preview application. Okay, so then I'll click on the lots of options. You can select the first option called start Fiori run open index file. Okay, so if we do this, it will be running. If you see npm run start, so it will automatically write or on the command terminal, it will write the instructions and it will automatically open the application on your browser. We need not do anything. Everything is automated. You should be able to see your first successful application called first apps as a title. Let's learn UFI. So we are able to create our first project. So if you have done till this point, then your installation of tools, etc., everything are perfect, and you're good to create your own projects. See, I think this is something which is very essential for all our subsequent classes.
Mhm.
Now we are able to create one nice first application for environment. Okay, so I'll just place this snippet as well. So this is a snippet we added in the view. Just in the view, we just added one text. That's it. We did not add anything more to it. So everything is standard created code itself. So we added is content text as such. Okay. So if we are able to get this point, then I think we have relatively done our good job. So now, like I said, we have to link this particular repository or GitHub. So our task is not yet done. So our development is done. We are successfully able to run. Now, one more thing what we have to do is go to your GitHub. So if you have gone to your GitHub, there is a icon on the top. So if you see on the next to your icon, there will be icon called plus icon. So you can click on new repository, and it will see any project, be it small or big, always create a repository for individual projects. So for this project, first project, I'll create one repository. For any other task, I'll create one more repository. So the idea behind is individual projects later, if you wanted to develop, say today I have started this first application wallet. Tomorrow I want to continue. So Git repository enables us to resume our work from where we stopped last. So that's the advantage. So I'll create my as first app as my repository name. I'll give an example that let's learn UFM. Okay, and you can set it to public. If you want nobody else to see your code, you can keep it as private. So it's choice. So just click on create repository. Hope you're following till here, or am I going? Is it relevant so
Yeah,
far?
yeah.
So once we select plus icon and give it a name, then you should get a URL like this here on the top. It says as this is a GitHub URL. So you have to copy this URL, and this is very important for us to link to our Visual Studio Code. So now let's integrate GitHub with our Visual Studio Code. Okay, Visual Studio Code. So this is my repository. So this repository, what I do is I'll just go back to our second step. Like initially I said, now we are coming to our step called second. If you see here, ideally the icon on the, I'll just close all this. See, this is our project is done. So first one will show you the project, whereas the second icon will show you empty. It should show you empty ideally if you haven't yet linked your GitHub. On the third icon, when you select here, it will show you folder does not exist, you want to initialize, etc. Okay, if you're not able to see this step, that means you need to install there is one option called installation. So git svm, git svm, scm, sorry, git scm. So I think it will if you are on the screen because I have already installed the git add-on, it will not show me, but for you it should show something like there is no git installed as such. We need to install one more extension called git add-on, because this is a one which will allows us to link our GitHub with our local environment. Okay, based on your environment you can choose Windows or Mac, etc., and you can just download this. So this is officially maintained by Git consortium. So these are all official websites, and these are not any third-party websites. So you can very much comfortably download the repositories from here. Okay, so you can just download here, download 2.31, and you should be able to get. So Git tool is one which we need. So Git add-on for managing Git repository. Okay. So this is the one we have to install. If you are install, make sure you just restart once you're, see, whenever you install anything, always make sure to restart your Visual Studio Code as a precautionary measure, because sometimes like previously you have faced the issue, right? So you may not be, the commands what I'm saying may not be executed because it might be not able to recognize. So whenever we install any add-on, just remember as a thumb rule to restart the Visual Studio Code. Okay, so that will ensure that all installed files are recognized by the ID. Automatically it will recognize. You need not to do any manual activity. Only we have to do is we have to restart it. Okay, so if you do this step, then you should be able to see some option like this way. So initialize repository and publish to GitHub. So one of the easiest way is, if you haven't created any repository, anything, also directly from here I can click publish to GitHub, and it will ask me to, it has if you install that add-on, automatically ask, do you want to create publish as private or public? So I can select as public now, and automatically I can just select okay. Automatically it will create GitHub repository and everything, all the changes will be, it will be creating it. So automatically it will publish to my GitHub account. Right now, it will, in your case, it will prompt you to log into your GitHub, because I have already logged in. In this case, if you see, it's already published to my GitHub repository. See, I can click on open GitHub and automatically that repository has been created. So new repository has been created automatically. So I need not to do any single manual activity. That's the advantage of that add-on, which I have shared in the previous step. If you use that add-on step, automatically it will only create your repository and it will automatically publish as well. That's the beauty of that add-on. Okay, so this is very important step to remember. So see, we can do it manually. We can come there and we can run the step as well, or you can use automatically publish to GitHub to automatically create as well. But you make sure that you have an account. In your case, when you are trying to do that step, publish to GitHub, it will prompt you to log in with user ID password, or it will ask you to, anybody can you share my screen, because there is one interesting step there. So because I will not be able to do that step because I have long installed my Git add-on, and it will not allow me to show that step. So where you are on the screen, it should show you the Git add-on log-on screen, and there you'll find something called personal access tokens or login with user ID password. So that's the screen it will prompt you.
I haven't installed that Git SCM yet.
Okay.
I think right now it doesn't show that tab is there, but that publish to Git is not there. I
Correct.
think I need to install that Git
Yes.
SCM.
Only once it is installed, then only it will publish option will come, because that's add-on which is enabling us to integrate the GitHub to the local environment. Okay, so fine. So what the interesting thing what I was trying to say is, so you, if you have seen, if you install, so you'll have something called personal access token. So instead of every time logging in, we can create a token, so called automatic authentication. So I just wanted to show you that. So if you prefer to log in every time for any new project you are creating, if you want to prefer to log in manually, so you can use your GitHub user ID password, and that is a plain way. GitHub username password, you can use it. But if you do not want to enter manually, so if you want to create one token, we can create a personal access token. So I'll show you how to create personal action token. So this will simplify our job. These all are one-time activities. Just believe me, if you set these things up, later you'll find very convenient. Come to your GitHub account and select settings. Okay, in the settings you'll see on the bottom most there are something called developer settings. So we have to go to developer settings. So I'll just go to settings, and then in this settings you'll find something called developer settings. Okay, in this you'll have a section called personal access tokens. So these personal access tokens are one which we are going to use in GitHub. So this is a path. Go to your settings and then go to your developer settings, and then you have to go to your personal access token. Okay, so personal access tokens are just like we can see in this token I have lots of tokens created, so you can just create generate token. You can give a note, so my local environment, okay, or you can give my Visual Studio Code developments. So what are you giving? You can create see, nobody can access your repository, or nobody can publish or modify your code. So to prevent that, etc., authentication, etc., will be there. But instead of preventing, it's like SML token, like automatic. Whenever we are publishing, automatically it recognize that in the same laptop we are using it. Automatically, it will remember our user credentials, and automatically it will allow us to publish to GitHub directly every time when we are doing it. So here, if you, for your purpose, you need not to restrict. So able to create a repository, so public or private, to read that control. So to manage repository, you can check it up, and you can by default you can select all for your purpose. If you want to restrict anything, these are like instructions. So what all we can do with or GitHub repository, these are like GitHub permissions. So whether anybody can modify, etc., using code based approach. So you select all, then create generate token. So if you you'll get a random code. This will appear only once. Make sure you click on copy. So once you do not select anything, it will automatically it will be lost. Okay, you just have to click on copy, and in your Visual Studio Code, when you install it, when it prompts for username password, instead of username password, you can select personal access token and copy this code. If you copy it code, it will remember, and always whenever you are going to the extension part, it will automatically show you publish option, and it will not ask you for username and password. So that's the only advantage of using personal access token. Hope it's not confusing, right? Am I confusing? So if you want to use Git login password name, you can perfectly do. Or if you prefer to use personal access token, you can use personal access token as well. Okay. So these are the steps which we have done. Okay. So I think we are. Any questions or anything you felt like you're not able to follow?
For me, it's fine. So I need to get everything set up, and if I am having anything, probably tomorrow I'd ask.
Sure, sure, sure. So you can always see in this, try to do the basic steps. So let's not carried away. So I'll highlight the steps. So terminal checking for Node.js is mandatory step, and installing extension and creating workspace are mandatory steps. And these are optional steps, so let's do not go into that. And creating an application generator is mandatory step. So I'm just highlighting the one which. So once you have an application generator, directly you can jump back to your step called freestyle selection. So freestyle selection, when you do, you can just directly add this code snippet in your view. So here in view, so if the project has been generated in view, so those are like, it will ask you for certain steps where all you have to do is when it prompt for OData service, select as none. So the wizard, so give it a project name, select as freestyle app, and then you have to select OData service when it prompts. So select as none, and further step you will ask you to give a module name. So module name will be your first app, and you can your application name, etc., and all you can select no, and just you can make sure that the project folder which it is residing, make sure we created the folders, because if you created a folder step, it will not ask anything. Just you can select finish. So if you are successfully the project created in the view folder, you can go to your view name. By default, if you used view.xml is the file which will be there. So this way, so if you see the in the view folder, view1.view.xml, this is a file which you have to place copy this particular content, text, etc. So this is a line of code you have to copy. So copy below snippet. So if you are able to do this step, then you should be able to run your application. So how do we run it? So just this is a necessary step, and then to run, what we do is right click the project folder. Okay, so project folder is, in our case, it's you see here project folder, our first app is the project folder. So right click on it, click on preview application. So this should right click on preview application. So this should automatically show you an option to run the application. So this should point you to the then select the first option called first run Fiori. So these two steps should automatically trigger, and they should be able to run your application, and you should see a successful application called first step. So this should be our output. So if we are doing this task today, then we are good. So in the right track. So right click the project and just select this step. So you can just run the application, then it should take us to this option. Okay. I'll just organize this content in a more better way. So that I'll just share this file so you can just refer. I'll just host it in. So one more thing to do is make sure to share me your GitHub email ID so that I'll host all this content on. I'll place it so you can directly access it as well. So we have wish master UFI batch 03. So here I have created a repository. So all the codes, etc., everything will be placed. So today's repository also I'll try to host it here, and all this document also I'll just hold it in the daily folder. So the steps whatever we have designed, I'll just host it there. You can just refer from that repository. So to access this repository, so you have to just share me your email ID with which you have created your GitHub account. So that's the only prerequisite. Okay. um, I think then we'll catch up tomorrow. Hope we are clear for today.
Yeah, sure. So I'll get my GitHub ID created. I think I have one, so I need to get that ID, and I'll share it to you
Sure,
later
sure, sure.
today.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.